I think that I think you always will kind of just, or I mean, at least with me, when it becomes about do's and don'ts versus relationship, then it can start to just seem kind of confusing. Because then it gets into what if. It's the what if this happens. If the government said, like, do this, would you do it? If the government said, don't do that, would you do it? Which is why I'm glad, like, that idea of submission in terms of marriage came up. Because you think about abuse in marriage. It's not about, like, the things that, it's not about the holiness aspects of marriage all the time. Like, where it's like, yeah, we keep the marriage bed clean, pure. Like, yeah, I provide. A man don't work, man don't eat. I provide for my wife and my kids. But it's the relational aspect. This is where I feel like sometimes there's a gray area in the way, like, Christians approach government, because it's like, should you be cool, like, serving a tyrant? I mean, even if the tyrant is Christian, will we, like, I mean, that's a really interesting question. Like, if there was a Christian government and they said you can only follow Jesus, I mean, what about free will? What about,
God
like,
don't force us.
He don't force us. So I mean, I'll just say, I think it goes beyond issues of just holiness and righteousness. I think there is, like, things in day-to-day living that I don't think you should just blindly say yes. I don't want Marianne to submit to me in that way. I don't want a robot. If she chooses to submit to something, I don't want her to submit to me being petty. I don't want her to submit to me saying something that's not well thought out. I don't want her to submit to me in a way that's selfish. I may feel like I want her to, but I want her to be a whole person. I want her to know her rights. Be married and do marriage how you want it. And I'm not saying I could be selfish, I could be petty, I could be all these things. But I never wanted, like, I like the fact that my wife is in full control of her mind. And I pray that she knows that, like, I love the fact that she's a whole person. Government, and if I relate that, if I relate wives submitting to husbands as submit to the government authorities, is not about you losing your humanity and the ability to say no. Because, and not saying there aren't consequences. There won't be consequences, but, you know, if the government is unreasonable, if the government is taxing you unfairly, if the government is doing something, yeah, you should be able to vote no. You should be able to leave we can leave. Isn't that crazy? Like, we could leave America. We could leave countries. We have the right to change things. Mm-hmm. You know, so I don't think it's like,
I think you should separate the two, though. I think the way we are in relationship with our wives is not the same way that we're in a relationship with government.
I would disagree. I think it's a lot, because if it's not, then it's just.
And here's the difference. We don't know these. For the most part, we don't know these people. I know my wife. I live with her, right? I'm intimate with her. Half of the time, we don't know where these people live. We never been to their house. We don't know what they're thinking. Outside of the policies, and when they come and do press conferences, we don't know these people. There is no relationship. So I can't speak into the president's life, into his walk. I can't speak into that. I don't know him. I don't have access to him. Right? Those people who are, they can, but I don't know what that relationship looks like. Is that just a business relationship? Is it just transactional? That is different than how I am with my wife. With my wife, I have her best interest at heart. Right? I can sit with her when she's crying, when she's going through something. I can be there. and to help her process her thoughts and things like that. We don't know about governments making decisions and what was the process until it just comes out. And so, in most government politics, what is it about? It's usually about power. A lot of them say it's best for what the people want, and they want to give the people what they want. But a lot of times, man, it's just about, like in America, right? We need to have an all Democratic system. Everybody who's in positions of power needs to be Democrat because that's what's going to be best for the country. You got the Republicans saying the same thing on their side. We need to, just all Republicans and conservatives just needs to be in positions of power. Then America be, great again and all that stuff. And this is like, what are they both fighting for? They're both fighting for power. They're both fighting for opportunities to rule and rule over people. And they don't always, for the most part, have the people's best interest at heart. And then if you do have people's best interest at heart, like, what is God's heart for how we serve people? Is that being played out? And I think that's how we should separate it, right? I love my wife. I support her. I'm with her, right? She is a reflection of me. I'm a reflection of her, and we are doing life together. I'm not necessarily doing life with government.
I think it's more similar than we think, because like the way we treat our wives is not contingent upon how well we know them. There are just standards that God sets. Now within that, I think there's room for grace. I think there's room for disagreement. I think there's room for all that. But it's like, one, the government is more involved in our lives than we think. That's what we kind of like started it off with. Mm-hmm. We live passively versus living actively. So Christians who live very involved in politics, like, I used to think it was just a bother, but as time goes on, I'm like, yeah, being aware of local, state, and national government, I think maybe even if it's not in a really deep way, you should be aware of these things. But I think wives, submit to your husbands, be the leaders in the home. I think there is overlap. I think the standard is set both in the marriage relationship and the government relationship. And it's not dependent on how well you know either. Because you could be entrenched in government and know the ins and outs of it. But God still sets the standards, I mean, so if you know your wife really well, can you be lax on some stuff that God says?
Are you asking me?
No, but just in general, like, if you don't know your wife that well, like, does that mean you get a pass on certain things?
If I don't,
because you were saying that like the difference between a government relationship and a husband and wife relationship is how well you know the wife, right?
Not how well you know your wife, but you're in a relationship.
Yeah, but I think you're in a relationship with the government too. That's what I was trying to get at. You're in a relationship with the government as well. And I think that relationship has nuance.
I think, yeah, it is a relationship with both, but one is different.
That's maybe that's the main pushback of the episode I have. I don't think it's that different. I don't think how dear Lord, how much damage has been done in the name of Jesus by Christians acquiescing to stuff they should have said no to. Stuff that, they believed it was their Christian duty to say yes to. Is there selfishness involved? Are there wrong motives involved? Yeah. But you don't bend to every whim of the government. Like, I don't want Marianne to bend to every whim of me. And I know any reasonable Christian husband, if you value your wife as an individual and as a human being, you do not want them to just jump and say yes every time you say to do something. And in some instances, as a leader, yeah, you want them to follow you as you follow Jesus and as you're laying down your life for them. But I think
the difference that we have is that I think you're thinking about scenarios of what it should be, and then I'm talking about what it is right now and how government functions, right? The way you talking about is that's when we get to heaven, right? Jesus is ruling and
No,
there's
no,
love. I don't
no.
in all of the world governments, right? Think of all the world governments. How many of them are promoting us living for Jesus?
I mean zero. I would say. Yeah.
Zero. They're all for themselves, like themselves being in power. And then there's some things of like, oh man, people vote. What do you guys want? Okay, what do you guys want? What do you guys want? Okay, all right, I'm gonna try to just serve everybody. That's what we see. Kind of like the Democratic Party, right? It's like we want to serve everybody, and then in trying to serve everybody and what they feel, everything gets chaotic because if I serve you, then I offend Adam. And then if I serve Adam, then I offend you, and then it just keeps going. And then now everybody is mad, right? And so I'm gonna give you a little bit. I'm gonna give Adam a little bit what he want. I'm gonna give these people over here a little bit of what they want. This person over here a little bit what they want, and then I'm trying to make everybody happy instead of having the government. Okay, what is God's role for government? What is His plan? How do we implement this out? And then we get into the small things of like, should people have guns or not? You know what I'm saying?